What's up, Druid? So we did it again. We have an infinite ultimate build. Last season, Blizzard had nerfed our ultimate infinite Druid bear build with Pulverize, but we brought it back in a separate way because they added a new ring that just allows us to get infinite ultimate again. So before we had infinite Grizzly Rage, and they nerfed it because how it works is the cooldown would not start until it actually ended. That's the new nerf here. But it used to just start the cooldown as soon as you activated it. But with Cataclysm, it starts as soon as you hit it. So we have infinite Cataclysm, and I was still leveling up in this gameplay for my glyphs, and the build absolutely dominates now. One of the biggest problems Druid has for Pulverize is specifically running out of resources when you're not killing targets. With the brand new Moneric ring, we have the final line over here where it says, while Cataclysm is active, you gain unlimited spirit. So that's how we have infinite spirit, and we deal 100x increased damage. And then we also have ranks to Endless Tempest, which will also give us the ability to have it up 100% of the time. So that's what makes this build super, super powerful. And that's basically to answer the question that I was constantly getting asked: how are you playing Pulverize, but you have infinite resource? It's just this ring. And then also, that's also how we keep up our ultimate up 100% of the time, is getting the masterworking, hopefully to hit on Endless Tempest. In the gameplay, I only have a +4, so I don't even have a greater affix. I didn't even have a good roll. I just masterworked it to 12 out of 12, and then I was able to get it to 4. So yeah, you don't need triple masterworking here. Ideally, that would be great because it lets you get less cooldown reduction on other pieces of gear, and it kind of takes the pressure off of hitting the masterworking on the Harlequin or maybe on the Rakenos boots. But just want to go ahead and mention as a heads up, this build is not going to be very beginner friendly. It is very strict on the pieces of gear you need. It is an endgame focused build, as well, it requires a bunch of uniques. And if you don't happen to have the massive amount of cooldown reduction that this build does require, this build will not function. If you still want to play this build, I actually have a really easy beginner build guide for specifically the Pulverized Druid, and I'll link that down below. You can play that and then understand maybe how the build works, and then go into this one. As this one is, again, very strict. It requires uber uniques, and it does require you to specifically get lots and lots of cooldown reduction and masterworking to get it to actually feel very good. It is a build where you will have to put in the time with it, but it will be really, really strong, specifically for the brand new Infernal Hordes mode, because there's a lot of consistent one-shots that you can actually pull up. And I want to go ahead and start off the video by mentioning that the damage numbers are going to be very inconsistent with the build. Just wanted to mention it because there are newer players that maybe never played Pulverized Druid before. So this is actually from the gameplay. You'll see sometimes we just hit something once and it just gets deleted. So the whole build is based off of a mechanic called Overpower. It's kind of like another wording of crit. So you can basically crit and you can overpower. When you crit and overpower, the damage number goes to the moon. And so with just one hit, you can see you actually tag the targets also twice. And this is actually important for the build. So how Pulverize works is it's going to be a giant circle. Now, how it also hits a second time is a shockwave kind of comes out, and it's a giant like Hadouken that shoots out, and that will also deal 200% of the damage. So you'll see two really big numbers a lot of times when you actually Pulverize correctly. So there is kind of like this circle that it hits in, and then it shoots out. The golden area is to be on the edge, and you'll hit them with a Pulverized Slam, and then the Hadouken will also follow up with a follow-up shot. It's actually kind of important to mention. If you want to min-max in terms of DPS and play the build correctly, you will kind of have to do that. But don't worry, most of the small stuff you're just going to just absolutely delete. But that's how you're seeing like these 300 mil hits. It's basically when you are hitting it correctly with basically double times. But not every hit is going to be an overpower. The classes in Diablo all have a base of, I believe, 3% to actually overpower the target. However, Druid as well as Barbarian have some more consistent ways to actually apply that overpower damage. But let's go ahead and now go over the build now that I kind of explained the things that kind of make this build functioning, and kind of give you guys the warning of this is mainly an endgame build. Use my leveling in the early beginner guide and transition into it if you haven't played, because I don't want people thinking, all right, man, I want to play this build. You got infinite resource, infinite ultimate, sounds good. It's a very strict one, but it's worth it if you put in the time with this, because you can absolutely just shred content. You're going to get very consistent overpowers on the trash mobs. You're going to see sometimes where we're just pulverizing, and then we'll hit once, and then it'll just delete like the entire screen. It's super satisfying to play, but let's go ahead and hop right into these skills. So for starters, we're running Trample or Debilitating Roar. You can run whatever one that you want here, and then we run Pulverize. We just keep on slamming to get damage over here, and then we're running Cataclysm. This is how we get that crazy amount of damage, as well as Infinite Resource. This is our ultimate that we will have up on 100% of the time. And then these are kind of like free open slots. I mean, honestly, all you really need, these two skills are absolutely required, and then the rest, put in what you want. I like Cyclone because you just have it and it just gives you extra damage reduction. And then Poison Creeper will give you the ability to poison enemies, so you have Envenom activating. And then we have Earth and Bulwark. If you want to play it more lazily, if you do want to go ahead and swap out Envenom, that's totally fine. But you can actually apply Envenom without even having to hit Poison Creeper, because it's kind of annoying to have to hit it every single time because there's just too many enemies that, you know, come out. So we actually have it automated as well in this build. And then we have Earth and Bulwark to go ahead and give us Unstoppable. As far as the Spirit Boons, we're running Deer for wariness, and then we're running Eagle for more HP, but if you want to get more damage or whatever, that's fine too. And then for Wolf, we get the extended duration of our ultimate, and then for Snake, which we put 2 points in, Obsidian Slam, as well as Calm Before the Storm. So these are the most important ones to actually talk about. Obsidian Slam, when you hit, it's going to make it so we're going to convert our Pulverize into an Earth skill. Our Werebear skills would now be Earth skills. So every 10 kills is how we get the next one to overpower. So it's a guaranteed overpower. There's also a bunch of things in the tree that will also help out with like just free overpower. But basically, this is what's giving you that consistent overpower on the trash stuff. This is what makes the Werebear Druid feel really, really good, is specifically this. Even though I've uploaded like a rogue build with like the 1 billion DPS, which is crazy, it takes time to ramp up. You have to, you know, affect them. You got to go ahead and throw down a totem. Whereas this Werebear goes, bam, you know, you hit for like 100 mil, bam, 100 mil. Most of the trash dies, and it's really satisfying to play, and it really comes down to this. This is what's making it awesome. Plus, you also have Calm Before the Storm, so this will help out with some cooldown reduction. Sometimes you'll see, like, I have an extra, like, 2 or 3 seconds on my Cataclysm, and it's because this is activating multiple times. It is very, very helpful. If you get, like, really godly rolls, you could, in theory, drop this, and then you could put 2 points into Eagle and get even more stats over there. But, that's just something to mention that's quite important. As far as the gear and aspects, let's hop into that. So, with the gear, it's pretty strict with exception of maybe like the boots here, but we need a Harlequin for the cooldown reduction. We want Insatiable Fury. You can technically run Serials, but you're going to lose out on a lot of damage. So this also got a huge buff in Season 5. So the main buffs that we got is the Werebear is now our true form, which doesn't really matter too much, but you can gain up to 5 ranks to all of your Werebear skills, plus you get a bunch of defensive stats. You get Earth Sign Strength bonuses, which is actually in the passive. It actually gives you a huge amount of bonus. If you get that Greater Affix, it is huge for the build. I don't happen to have a Greater Affix one, but I just got the plus 5 ranks of all your skills. You can get your Pulverize to 20 plus in this build. It's crazy. And then, important aspect the Earth Sign Horror. This allows us to make Pulverize an Earth skill, so we get all these Earth things, and it works with the build. And then we want Pulverize, attack speed, crit, and then we want Earth Overpower, or regular Overpower, doesn't really matter, you can get crit. You also want something to actually affect the enemy by crowd control, as we get a lot of crowd control damage to reach another multiplier in the Paragon Board. And then we got Crowded Sage, or any defensive aspect here is totally fine. Willpower, max life, dodge, those are all great stats. And then chance to slow, max life, those are all great. Max life, the more HP you have, the more damage you'll actually deal once we show off the Paragon Board. Then we have Ballistic over here for extra 2 ranks of our Earth skills. Once we have Fortification, if you watch the gameplay, we're fortified the whole entire game. You can easily get like 80k life with this build. Pretty tanky, obviously that's like Werebear. The thing that to note with like the Druid, there's not that really good like defensive aspects that you have unless you have like the pet, and it only gives you like 17.5 compared to a lot of the other classes. They're getting like 25 damage reduction. It's because like you get a lot more defenses and like HP with the bear. And then Shockwave aspect, you want to use this on a mace, a 2-handed mace. The reason why is it gives you overpowered damage on it. But there's not a really good weapon one, so feel free to run whatever you want. I opted for Pulverize size, but getting that and damage to crowd control is kind of what you're looking for. There's the one area where you don't really need to craft like some sort of like overpower. On the tempering, you want on your weapon the damage to crowd control, or on your amulet. The reason why you really want this is because you super need to get this for the Paragon Board. There's like a bonus that you get from damage to crowd control. Otherwise, you won't be able to hit this min-max in terms of like up to, I believe it's X60 damage. And then for our amulet, we're running Aspect of Retaliation, so we get more damage from our core skills. It just gives you the highest number here. So crit strike chance, cooldown reduction, attack speed. You 100% need cooldown reduction, but you can get ranks to Envenom. You can get other, like, you know, offensive ones. That's totally fine too. And then bring us Starless Skies, and then we also are running, of course, the brand new Molniric Ring, which gives us, again, 100x damage. That's absolutely crazy. Most aspects are like, you know, 20, 30x. This is 100x. That's like basically 5 aspects. It is crazy how good this is. Plus, you get Infinite Spirit. It's just a godly ring, man. I'm so happy that this thing exists. I actually want to make a really cool other build with this that is going to be a walking simulator. That's actually what I planned to make, but while I was playing this build on the stream, everyone's asking, you know, drop the build guide for this. It looks crazy good. It is crazy good till you get to the boss. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Druids always had this problem, specifically with the Pulverize Druid on the bosses. It's just not going to, like, insta-delete the bosses, but we don't have an offhand because it's two-ended. So as far as what we're running all the overpower, so rubies, and then we need to hit resistances. You also, as a heads up, need to get armor in your pants or your boots, because Harlequin gives you some, but they actually nerfed Insatiable Fury. It used to actually give you armor, but it no longer does. But now that we've went over the aspects, let's go over the skill tree, and I'll make this bigger. You know, shout outs to my mobile viewers over here. All right, so this way you guys can actually read it. So for starters, the first 2 points don't matter. Then we get Wild Impulses over here, getting max out Pulverize, and we get this to stun, which affects enemies by crowd control, getting all the wolf, the Werebear stuff. We skip out on the wolf stuff. There is another variant. If you want to keep on spamming like the wolf stuff, it is possible, but I like smooth builds, so I ended up to go for that playstyle of, like, there's a bunch of, like, things that if you want to get and drop all the earth stuff, and you can get all, like, the werewolf, werebear, but it's a very, very difficult thing to play. It just requires way more micromanagement. I'd rather go big button slam and make it like a very easy bonk build. Like, that's just how I like the way that the gameplay plays, but it's not bad if you want to try it out as well. And then we run Enhanced Bulwark, and by the way, we have Harlequin, so we don't need to put points into Cyclone Armor, and that's how we get it without actually putting a point in. But you can drop Cyclone Armor, it's not super important. Same thing with Bulwark. If you want to run Debilitating Roar, could highly recommend this skill as well. Then we get the resistances here to res cap, because we don't have Tyraels, which is like in every single build, because, well, we want the +5 ranks, man. That's a really good thing to have. And then we need to put points into Endless Tempest and getting all, like, the earth stuff, all this, like, extra stuff. We get guaranteed overpower every 12 seconds, and there's other ways to get overpowered too, and on, like, the Druid Spirit Boons. And then this is actually important. So poison enemies take more crit damage, which is something we'll get into once we get the Paragon Board. You can activate Creeper if you want, but that's fine too. And then we also have, like, extra defensive stats here, and then obviously Cataclysm. And then this bonus gets increased by your chest piece. So if you get a Greater Affix one, makes this go even crazier, which is awesome. So now that we went over the skill tree, let's go over the Paragon Board. Starting out with Spirit, and then we're going to be moving up into the Earthen Devastation with Werebear. And the reason why we want all that damage to crowd control is specifically because of this. This allows us to get even more damage with the build. And then we're going to be moving up to Constricting Tendrils, Earth, and Sky, and that's going to give us extra damage with our nature magic. Remember, it converts the thing, and because it gives us the bonuses to magic nodes, we get all this extra bonus life, which is great. And then we're going to be moving into Thunderstruck with Fang and Claw. And then we're going to get all this damage to, like, crowd control as well. And then we're going to go into Survival Instincts with Territorial, which is going to give us more damage to close targets, but we also get some damage reduction, which is great. And then we also get Survival Instincts. So the more HP that we have, the more damage that we actually deal in terms of the difference. And then we move into Ancestral Guidance, and that's going to make it so when we overpower, that's going to make them take more damage. It also gives us a bunch of extra overpower damage. And then our final board is going to be Heightened Malice. So one thing that's important to mention is this. So while there are 3 or more poison enemies, which when you're fighting the bosses at the very end of the Infernal Hordes, there's going to be exactly 3. So try to kill them, not all, like, you know, one by one. Try to kill them all at the same time if possible. So while there are 3 or more poison enemies nearby, you're going to be able to deal X45 increased damage. This is why this build is so incredibly good at killing trash. But when you get to the bosses, it's not like you're just going to slam once and kill them. I mean, even if I go back to the gameplay of the Nightmare dungeon over here, the boss, it does melt quite fast. Let me actually move this out of the way. Okay, it was too far. But, like, the whole, like, dungeon itself is super easy. But the bosses, don't expect to, again, like, one shot. but you're killing them relatively fast anyways. The important thing is that this will not actually activate when you're actually fighting the bosses. However, the poison can be actually activated in 2 different ways. So you have a way to poison the enemies with constricting tendrils, which will have it so nature magic seals will automatically have that ability to entangle them and get some sort of a bonus damage on them, which is great. The damage that you get is very mediocre. It's only to apply the poison, not only for specifically the heightened malice, but also in the skill tree, we also get something called Envenom. And Envenom makes so poison enemies take X 30 additional critical strike damage. So that's kind of like the other important things to mention with the build. But anyways, yeah, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the build guide. Let me know, guys, what you think of it. Have some fun with it. I think it's more of a fun build at the end of the day than like the top tier Druid build, as I haven't really tried all the Druid builds, but I'm curious to know what you guys think is the best. There's definitely a really good landslide build. I do want to play a Cataclysm build where we actually invest everything into Cataclysm with Flicker Step with basically a bunch of different multipliers, but this is still a very fun build. I love this in group. Specifically, again, Infernal Hordes is so perfect for this build. When you kill everything up until the boss fight, I know I'm going to keep it real with you guys, it's not going to be like a very fast instant one-shot. But there is no timer in the Infernal Hordes, and it's only slower by like a minute or 2, depending on, of course, how much you min-max the build. But this is definitely, again, a build where you definitely need to put in the time to get those greater affixes to actually masterwork in order for the cooldown reduction and everything to actually feel really good in the build. But again, it will give you that infinite ultimate, which is really satisfying to actually play with. But have some fun. If there's any suggestions to improve this build, let me know down below, and maybe I'll update you guys with another guide in the future. But I definitely plan to make another really cool build that kind of is like the same thing with an infinite cataclysm as, I mean, it's 100x damage. We could just go to the moon with like every single build. But as far as Pulverize goes, it did get a buff, and I want to try it out. We're going to be trying out the Boulder variant. We're going to be trying out a lot more different Druid builds. So if you're new here, sub, and you'll see them very soon. But take care, and check the pin. It'll have all the info that you need, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.